Well, I just wanted to give a little hypothetical update here as we are in mid March of 2024 with the election not very far away. This might be, after seeing the massive swath of polling that we had yesterday, this might be Trump's biggest lead we have seen yet. This is the reaction polls to Biden's State of the Union. Now, first, I want to put these polls in context. You can see these are the pollers' accuracy from 2014 to 2022. So that is a lot of election cycles. You can see many of these polls heavily liberal bias. And Biden, in terms of the popular vote, was towards the end of 2020, right before the election, 7 points ahead of Trump. Of course, he won the popular vote only by about 4.5 points. So it misrepresented the actual results favoring Democrats by 3 points. The overall idea of showing this is to show that normally you'll get the polls that overestimate the Democrats and underestimate the Republicans. Now, certainly it's not going to be like that every single time, but at least in kind of this modern social media age we've seen during the 2016 election, the 2020 election, the Democrat went into the election as the clear betting favorite, and recent polls, all the narratives suggest that's going to completely change in 2024. That's why we're seeing a lot of liberals on these extremely left-wing talk shows like MSNBC start lashing out against Americans and calling us all racist because Trump is winning independents by about 30 points in some of these swing states, and the recent polls have only gotten worse for Biden. This is the Wednesday update, and we've also got polls today on Thursday. I will say this first one is actually good news for Biden, only down by 3 in Georgia. That's the closest he's been, according to polling. But right now, if Georgia had their election today, certainly I would expect Trump to win by at least 5 points. Those polls have not been close. I will say there's a little weird thing I want to talk about when it comes to Georgia. So obviously Nikki Haley dropped out. The Georgia primary was after that. And Trump won it like 83-17 or something. He got 83% of the vote. The issue is a bunch of Nikki Haley's vote came in from early voting. And you just have to wonder, are we really doing the early vote crap again? Are these people still afraid of their own shadow? They can't come out and actually vote in terms of the general election. And then they say, oh, it's easier to vote from home. No, it's not. It's actually a hassle to do it. So you would think the younger people would finally come out and we wouldn't have to deal with this ridiculous amount of mail-in voting, to where even the U.S. government admits we need to limit the mail-in voting. It's not good for the transparency of our elections. So let's hope that that trend doesn't continue. The problem is when like 30-year-olds vote from home, it's not a big deal. When old people do it, that's the whole reason for it. And also overseas military, you understand it. But the last thing this country needs in terms of transparency within our elections is a bunch of mail-in voting. And apparently a lot of the Nikki Haley votes, out of the whatever 17% she got from the state of Georgia, a lot of it was early mail-in voting. And it's like, well, are they all old people? I don't think so. So that's just something to watch. You can see Ohio. Trump is going to win Ohio. He won Ohio in 2016 and 2020, both by 8 points. And you would think another 8 to 10 point win would be in store. Ohio is the one Rust Belt state that has picked a side, at least for the time being. It is a Republican state for the 2024 election cycle. You can see when they include Kennedy, West, and Stein, it does actually help Biden by a point. I wouldn't read too much into that. And then you can see all the way at the bottom, get through all the Senate races. That's just a general election, and that is just great news for Trump being up to as the Republican. Even if Trump were down to, it would still be good news based on the polling errors we've seen, the overvalue of the Democrats. We've got more election polls. This one's a little bit optimistic for Trump, let's be honest. The +8, the Rasmussen, I would say certainly it's a little bit closer than that, but amazing news there. Another general election poll from Yahoo, Trump +2. Another general election poll with Biden +1. And even that, again, is good news for Trump based on how they normally overestimate Democrats. And Trump can even lose the popular vote by 2 or 3 points and very easily win the election. We saw him do it in 2016 with Hillary. General election, USA Today, including everyone, Trump +2. The approval rating, Biden at a 41% approval, 43%, 42%, maybe trending a little bit up from where he was, because I know he was in the 30s And then the congressional vote, that is basically a tie. That one's got the Democrats +1. I looked at the overall average. It was Republicans plus +0.8, so it is virtually a tie. You do have more polls here. This is another Georgia poll. Trump +4. Georgia, including everyone, helps Trump by 3 points, +7. North Carolina, which is that's a swing state. Now, Trump has won it in 2016 and 2020, but it was very slim. You would imagine, though, based on recent dialogue, Trump winning it in 2020, and you compare his approval rating during the election, going into the election versus Biden, Biden actually had a significantly better approval rating going into the 2020 election than Trump, and Trump still won North Carolina. And now here we are 4 years later, Trump has the better approval rating. You would think it would be even easier for Trump to win a state like North Carolina, even though it's been very close in 2016 and 2020. And then we do have the Thursday update. Pennsylvania, very close, huge state. Trump +4. Fox News comes out with a poll. You want to argue it's slightly conservative bias. Well, history actually says it favors liberals slightly. Even Fox News, their polling does at least. Trump +2. Arizona, Trump +4. Fox has Pennsylvania with all of them as a tie. So I will say it is surprising to me. It seems like Kennedy might actually, at least in this recent swath of polling, be helping Biden more than Trump, because certainly West and Stein are not going to be helping Biden at all. If anything, they'd be hurting Biden. So Kennedy would be the one significantly hurting Trump and helping Biden. You see the Fox News doing polls of Pennsylvania with just Trump and Biden, where it's Trump +2, and then he goes down 2 points when you include all the other ones. The Hill with a poll in Pennsylvania, Trump +4. Arizona, Trump +4 from Fox News. Nevada, Trump +5. Another key thing to watch, both Nevada and Arizona trending pretty heavily towards Trump right now. I've seen a lot of polls. It's not like it's +1, +2. It's negligible. It's Trump +5, +6, +9. It's pretty crazy. And then when it comes to the potential election scenarios, I would say right now this would be an absolute best case scenario for Trump. Actually, you'd also have to give Trump the district there in Nebraska as well. But this is basically Trump sweeping everything and also winning Minnesota. There's been a recent poll out of Minnesota with Biden up 3. I would expect Biden to win Minnesota. I'm just saying best case scenario, Trump looking at around 322. You could also argue Maine, Trump winning Maine outright, maybe get him to possibly 325, 326 electoral votes. I really don't see a scenario where Trump can win Virginia. Glenn Youngkin, what he was able to do in that state, you could maybe make an argument, but right now, I would say Minnesota before Virginia, when you start expanding the Republican map, because Trump is up by so much in terms of the polls, you can really start moving to different states and understanding that Republicans are going to win Ohio, they're going to win Florida, they're very likely going to win Georgia, they're very likely going to win North Carolina, Arizona and Nevada are looking better and better. And then you look at the Rust Belt, and those are just pure swing states. Obviously, this is the best case scenario, so he would sweep the Rust Belt. This is just another scenario that's, I would say, pretty realistic. Actually, kind of helps Biden a bit. He takes Minnesota. Now, that certainly, I think, could happen, obviously. Minnesota's been a Democratic-controlled state recently. It would have Biden taking also Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. See, this is why Georgia is so important. Even if Biden takes 2 out of the 3 Rust Belt states, because Ohio at this point, you really can't lump it in because it's not a swing state. Even with Biden taking 2 out of the 3 Rust Belt states, Trump still semi-comfortably wins this election. It's why Georgia is very important. Arizona and Nevada are as well. I guess you could also say, well, what about Colorado? It's not going to happen. Colorado is a Democratic state in 2024. Things don't swing that fast unless there's a crazy scandal about Biden and just everyone says we can't vote for him. Colorado will be staying with the Democrats in 2024. And then this is another scenario where it would obviously be very close, but this gives Biden Arizona. Trump takes Nevada in this scenario. And then you can see the rest of the states are basically the same. So that one would be 272 to 266, with Trump losing 2 of the Rust Belt states, losing Minnesota, and also losing Arizona. So right now, I would say certainly there's no way you can call this a done deal or anything like that. There's a long time before the election. There's going to be a lot of legal stuff. I do think there's a lot of independent people who are really over the liberal justice system trying to win elections through the courts. People are just seeing right through that. It's not going to work. So I'm really not optimistic that's going to help the Democrats all that much, whatever they try and prosecute Trump on. This was what I was talking about. Haley gets 77K votes in Georgia GOP primary after dropping out of race. Yeah, the 77K votes, that's not the concern. The concern is the amount of mail-in voting that we saw. And again, you would think that now we're past the pandemic, these people, they can come out of their house, but it may be an issue with the mail-in votes. I don't think it'll be nearly as big as a problem as it was in 2020. And I'm not saying the Democrats stole the election or anything like that, but let's be honest, they already did admit to manipulating social media by censoring certain things that were going to hurt Joe Biden. So it's like, how can we... That's the thing with Trump. I talk to these people and I'm like, listen, I admit Trump acts like a baby sometimes, whatever, although actually recently Trump's been a lot more stoic. He's been a lot less egotistical. Trump is seemingly calming down more recently because he realizes he's going to win. But yes, I agree. Trump can act like a baby sometimes, but they bragged about it. They bragged about censoring the Hunter Biden story, which was the big October surprise. There was no October surprise on Donald Trump in 2020. The only October surprise we got was the corruption of Joe Biden, the Biden family, and that story was censored. And they actually bragged about censoring it after the election. And so that's the real big issue. So they try and gaslight you and say, oh, it's a conspiracy. What about the Russian hoax? Was that a conspiracy? Of course, they won't use that verbiage because whenever they say something's a conspiracy, there's a connotation that it's this Looney Tune idea that, and when you call it a conspiracy, it completely gets discredited. Donald Trump suffers brutal Georgia primary vote against him. Oh my God, who's writing these articles? If I asked a second grader, write me an article, write me a headline, that's just a terrible use of a headline. Just doesn't even make any sense. So overall, guys, right now I would say the recent swath of polling after the updated State of the Union, it's even more so in favor of Trump. And people are like, well, Biden's dividing everyone. Unfortunately, you have to understand, the only way Biden can function and talk straight for an hour and a half is if they give him a drug cocktail, and that's really not even Biden talking. So whenever you see Biden for these prolonged times go up and speak, he's always very angry, he's very annoyed, he is on something pretty significant to make sure he can continue to function, and the side effects of whatever he's on is seemingly making him more irritable, making him more angry. And it's not a good look, but if you're the Democrats, what do? He's either going to be completely non-functional after about 15 minutes. Remember, they won't let him do interviews. He barely does any press conferences. When he does do a press conference, he messes up 7 things and then leaves after 15 minutes. They're trying to hide him. The only way he can actually complete these things is if they give him stuff. The side effect is he becomes more angry. He becomes animated. He becomes almost like this evil dictator. And you're seeing a bunch of independent people completely denounce that type of behavior when it comes to a State of the Union address. And we see the polls are even shifted more so now in Trump. So Biden actually somehow, even though he was already so unlikable, he became even more unlikable after the State of the Union. So he's done more damage to himself, and it keeps getting worse. And at this point, it's like Trump realizes he's going to win. He almost feels bad for Biden. He's just staying in his lane, and he's like the wise overseer that's ready to take over and really get this thing going. He's already got 4 years of experience. Biden seemingly will be a one-term president. That's the exact moniker they wanted to use for Trump. Isn't it ironic that no, Trump is not going to be a one-term president? Very likely he will be reelected in November. So guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.